Hey, good afternoon. Today, my guest is Allen Duran. He's an Army veteran. He's been married for 31 years to Tanya. He has 4 kids: Gabriel, 30, Noah, 27, and Ryan and Ashley, who are 24 years old. Allen really has played the long game of fatherhood. He knows what lasts, what fades, and what you wish you could hold on to. Allen, welcome to Daddy Needs a Hug.
Yes, DJ. Thank you very much for having me. I'm really honored actually to be here. I felt like that kid on the playground that just got picked to play kickball or something. And hopefully, I don't have to share my snack pack with you just because you picked me.
Well, hey man, you got picked on the first team. So I'm
But
so glad to have you here. Allen and I have known each other for several years. Um, I know Gabriel pretty
yes,
well,
yes,
and I was at Ashley's wedding.
yes.
So I'm really, really happy to hear the story. Um, Man, tell me about your four. Just a quick rundown of your 4 kids.
Well, for that, I just like to say yes. DJ has been an integral part of my discipleship and growing up, and also just mentoring for this family part. I know just the wide age range of my kids, but still, um, I'm glad he was part of one of the most wonderful days, and that is my daughter's wedding. I'm glad you were there for that, you and Nicole, and it was just a wonderful day. I forgot what you asked me because I talked so much. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just tell
Yeah.
me a little bit about your kids, man. Well,
Um,
let's just start. I tell you what, let's just start from the beginning, man. Why don't you think back all the way back
mhm.
31 years ago, no kids, and tell me what it was like looking forward to having kids, and then that moment when Tanya tells you for the first time that she's pregnant and you guys are gonna have a kid.
Wow. Well, taking it back to those two 20-year-old kids back there doing their thing, working, going out, hanging out, and just enjoying the life together. It was, I think, with any fatherhood, it was the shock and the excitement at the same time of knowing Gabriel was coming along. Um, we were not really planning it. Of course, we had talked about kids, but we never thought, hey, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll have them on this day, we'll be married for 2 years, we'll do all the inline things. It was just like it happened, and it was just exciting. It was exciting to tell my friends, and well, more my family was exciting. Our friends were actually shocked. They were like, "What? You guys are having kids? You just got married? You know, we can't hang out no more." But yeah, it was the reality was there, and we just went with it.
Yeah. What was that like when your friends told you, "Oh man, we can't hang out anymore"? Did you think what were the thought processes? Was it like, "Oh my God, life is going to change forever"? What was happening with you and Tanya at the time?
Well, of course, we didn't know it, but our life was going to change forever at that time. And at that time, like I said, Tanya and I, we were 20 years old, um, still going out dancing, still going out shooting pool, still going out doing the things that 20-year-olds did in 1995,
Yeah.
Uh, so they were just, and they were leading a different life than us. And it just came where, hey, this was now going to be our life. But honestly, from there, it didn't change after that. Even after when Gabriel came home, um, we still had that time together. We still had friends over. We still went out with, not as much, not as frequently, but I think they adapted well. I really believe they adapted well.
Nice. What was that moment like when Tanya comes to you and she says, "I'm pregnant"?
Each time, I believe the moment was different. From our first tour to the twins, Ryan and Ashley, the moment was excitement. Um, it was just like, wow, what are we going to do now? What is the adventure that we're going to be part of? And of course, you hear stories and you hear different people say different things of how their experience was, but it was the excitement came from now we get to do it. This
Mm,
is going to be our experience,
yeah.
and what role are we going to play in their lives and theirs and ours.
And what are you doing as a 20-year-old during this time? Where are you living? What are you doing? What's happening in your life?
At that time, I was a delivery driver for a printing company, and Tanya was working at printing. No, I'm sorry. She was actually working at a moving company as just like order intake receptionist, things like that. We were living in a one bedroom apartment in Long Beach, California, and just yeah, that's it. That's where we were.
Yeah. So Tanya comes, tells you that she's pregnant. You guys are super excited. What hopes and dreams did you have for Gabriel when he's growing in the womb and you're thinking about, like, at what point do you guys find out the sex before he's born? Do you know you're having a boy?
Yes,
How'd that go?
yes. We wanted to find out right away what was happening. I have an older sister, and she already had a girl prior to us, and so it was like, wow, we're talking to her about it, and it's like, oh, is she what kind of sibling? Well, not sibling, but what kind of cousin will her daughter have? And so we were. I think it was really just, is he going to like us? Is the kid going to be happy with this? And not for the fact that, he has a choice at that moment,
Yeah.
but in a strange way, it was like, are we going to be okay with this kid? Is he going to be okay with us?
Are you going to be good parents?
Yes. Are we going to be good parents? Are we going to be good role models?
Yeah.
I mean, JJ, I have to admit, I mean, we were drinking, partying. I'm not saying like just out doing crazy stuff, but we were also taking into account, are we parents to a child, or are we just going to be a mom and a dad? Or I should say, well, are we going to be a mom and a dad, or we just say, yeah, I'm a parent?
Yeah.
And I think that's a reality that set in kind of quick to say we want to be a mom and a dad, a father and a mother, not just a parent that says, well, yeah, I had a kid.
Yeah, man. At 20 years old, that's kind of just telling yourself it's time to put the big boy pants on.
Yes, most definitely.
That's amazing that you have that kind of insight at 20 years old and realize it's time to grow up.
But a lot of it came from Tanya's side of the house. Her parents had been married for a long, and still are married, for a long time. And so the influence of her dad and mom were very much in the picture. Not to say my family wasn't, but my parents were divorced, and I didn't have a lot of insight there as to what was going to happen. So getting the guidance from her parents, her aunt and uncle, who had also been married probably 20 plus years at that time, gave us a lot of food for thought. So, and outside of them, there honestly, there was not a lot of people that we could lean on, besides those two couples, because all my friends were raised by their mom or a dad, single parents, I should say, and there wasn't a lot to go off of.
Wow. So Tanya tells you she's pregnant. She carries Gabriel for 9 months. He comes along. When you think back to that time, before Noah, like when you think back to that time, what's a memory that comes to mind from when Gabriel was really young? He's like your firstborn son. Like, tell me about a memory that comes to mind during that time.
Probably one of the greatest memories at that time was when we lived in this house, and we were at that time, this memory is I had joined the service at that time. We were living in Fort Drum, Watertown, New York, and we had windows. I used to park in a driveway that was away from our door. So I used to walk past the sidewalk and these windows, and I would always see him sitting at this window. I don't know how he knew I was coming home at that time, but he was always there when I came in, and I would see him at the window, and I could see his smiling face. He was probably waving, I'm sure, or something. And it was just that moment of walking through the door, and you do a little wrestle, and you just, hey, say hi, see what's going on. Um, and just that 5 minutes, maybe it was longer, maybe it was shorter. I'm not really sure, but it didn't matter because that time was just being captured in that greeting of the day almost, because when I left to work, he was asleep.
Yeah.
So this was like my first time seeing him during
First
the
time
day.
seeing him for the day.
For the day when I came home, and just the excitement on his face that he knew he had that expectation. I
Daddy's
believe
home.
Daddy is home, and I'm here, and give me a hug and let me play and let me, just soak up that happiness, for the moment.
So when you're walking home, you see him in the window, there's anticipation because you've seen it before, you felt it before. How did that make you show up different when you see him in the window anticipating you coming to the door?
It takes away the what you went through that day. Maybe you had an argument, maybe you had a disagreement with somebody, maybe somebody cut you off in traffic, but seeing that moment, your firstborn son at that moment, and he is just so elated to see you, all that stuff doesn't matter. And you come into play to say, oh, you know what? I'm home now.
That's so
And let me now enjoy this. Let me now be part of this, be part of his day. And just really go from there, and of course those things don't go away, but I don't need to focus on them at that moment, because this is now our time to bond, to connect, to just laugh.
So you get a couple years with Gabriel.
Yes.
1-to-1 time.
Mm-hmm.
It's you and him, Tanya, but it's daddy and your son, firstborn son. And then Tanya tells you, I'm pregnant again. How did things change on the second pregnancy, and what the expectation might have been for Noah when he's coming along?
So the expectation didn't change too much, but initially, because Noah, we actually planned for. We tried to set the time to say, okay, hey, this is what we're going to do and everything. So we had more of an idea of when he was coming, and we had more of a plan in place, so to speak. Even though you do plan, it doesn't go actually, as you know. But we had more of an idea of what to expect and how things to go. Because actually, I was ramping up to go to Bosnia at that time for one of my first deployments. So there was that added mixture into it. How am I going to leave him behind now? How am I going to, communicate with him? How is he going to know who I am? I know who he is, but at that thing, it's also he was 6 months old at that time, so he doesn't know who I am, except if I'm holding him and he wants to eat, and that's about his only thing. He don't care. So it was real important, and the role changed for Gabriel in this sense, because I would talk to him more and say, "Hey, this is your brother. I need you now, in a sense, to fill a role of taking care of him, helping with him, doing the things that I would maybe do, play with him." So I think that became like a whole new joy of seeing now what I've taught my son Gabriel in a short time. What can he now do to show his younger brother the same thing in his own way?
Man, so at 3 years old, you're kind of tasking him with, now I need you to be the man of the house.
Yes.
And help your mom out with your brother. And did Gabriel enjoy that task?
Oh, I want to say yes, he did. I just so, and I say that just only because of the pictures and discussions Tanya and I would have about that. He would read to him. He would just show him little things, and I'm sure there was tense moments. Hey, the tense moments help you grow. Maybe there was some disagreements because Gabriel now has to share with something, share his toys, share his time with his mom with somebody else now. But I don't know if I used the exact words of like, hey, be the man of the house. That probably came later on in our lives, but I definitely would talk to him. I do recall talking to him to say, hey, look, I'm going to need you to help your mom and make sure Noah's if your mom needs a diaper, bring it to her.
So you leave, you deploy for Bosnia. How long is that deployment?
We were there 10 months.
10 months.
Through the
You-
millennium, actually, was like the highlight. It was 99 to 2000. We thought we were going crazy we didn't know what to
Y2K.
expect. Yeah, the
Yeah.
whole, yes, Y2K thing. And we didn't know what to expect. But then, yeah, we're here. So, yes.
Yeah. So you leave for 10 months. He's 6 months when you left, a little over a year old when you get home.
Yes.
What's that homecoming like?
I think that it was back to the shock again of seeing him, because you miss a lot in that time. They grow. He's kind of not really walking, but he's learning to stand, and
Yeah.
he has that recognition, but also that newness of, like, I know who you are because I saw you maybe on a video or mom shared a picture with me, but it's also like, hold on, man, I still don't know who you are.
Yeah.
So and it's a reintroduction
Yeah.
of our life, a reintroduction of our relationship, and everything all over again. And I was say this, having that bond with Gabriel in the beginning before that, I think really gave Noah, I felt like it gave him a comfort to be like, okay, this guy's cool. All right, he's our dad. He's all right. I see Gabriel laughing with them. I see Gabriel playing with them, doing all these things. So it's cool. I can do this as
Wow.
well. So I don't know. Maybe I'm fooling myself, but I really believe that was
Yeah.
the case.
So you had a little credibility with
There you
Gabriel.
go. Yes.
So instant credibility with Noah because Gabriel trusts you.
Yes,
Love that.
definitely.
So now you've got 2 boys and get some time with them. Pregnancy number 3. How's that go down when you guys find out you're going to have twins?
Just utter amazement. We were having those discussions, Tanya and I, about like, okay, we want a girl. We kind of complete the puzzle, so to speak. Gabriel's got a playmate. They're going to grow up. They're going to do things together. Tanya didn't have any girls in her life. She had a brother, and then her cousin was real distant, who lived up in Northern California, so they never saw each other. And besides her just high school girlfriends, classmates, she didn't really have anything. So she wanted a daughter. She wanted that thing. And if you've ever met my wife, I would tell you she had that desire in her from the beginning to say, I need a girl. I need to show her this. I need to show her this love. I need to have all this nurturing that Tanya has. I want to give it to somebody and not just to boys. So now at this time, we are in Oklahoma now, living in Lawton, Oklahoma. 2-bedroom little house. Noah's still doing his thing. Gabriel still, they're on their things. And actually, they were some of the first two people, our kids, we showed them the picture of the sonogram of Ashley and Ryan as twins. And to see the amazement on themselves, like, what? There's 2 of them? What do you mean?
Yeah.
So that became another lesson in life, to talk to them about, we had you, and now you have you, Noah. We had Gabriel, now we have Noah, and now we're going to get 2 for 1 here, so that's just another lesson in life that we get to share with them.
Yeah. So how from going to 2 boys, now you're going to have another boy and a girl. How does your perspective on fatherhood change knowing that you're going to have a girl? How do you approach maybe teaching some of those lessons where when you are a man, you grew up as a boy and you know how to handle boys, you can relate to them, but now you're going to have a daughter. How does fatherhood change when you're parenting a girl and you have 3 boys?
I'll say it like this, DJ. It's like you've been on a hiking trip. You go on a trail and you go and you've never been there before, or you've been walking, you've been on a trail before, And then you get to a certain point in that trail and you think, man, I got this. This is good. You kind of plateau, things going all right and everything. And then you get to around the bend and you see the hill going up. And you're like, oh man, what is this thing now? I didn't think you got that rucksack, you tied your straps down, and you're gonna have to climb it. That's the top. That's the goal. So no matter what happens, you got to do it. So it becomes with a newfound excitement and some fear. I mean, it is the reality to be like, how do I do this now? You know, what does how does my role change? How did my modes change? Um, it's a whole new life to learn there. And at that time, we're totally away from family, so you don't have that support as much, and you're trusting on the people around you to really kind of get that um, influence from and guidance from. And if there's anybody, if you were in the service, you get there and you don't know. We'd been in Lawton by that time, maybe 2 years. So we knew people, but we hadn't formed those bonds with a lot of people at that time to really understand what was happening.
Yeah. Yeah. So thinking about the military and thinking here you are, you've already moved from Huntington Beach, California to Fort Drum in New York. Now you're in Oklahoma. You've moved twice.
Mm-hmm.
And in the short span of 5 years. And if I know anything about the military, it's that there's gonna be more moves
Yes.
in the
yes.
future. And you're thinking you've got these 4 kids now. You've got to move from place to place. How does that affect them growing up and how you're parenting through different moves? How many times are you moving in this period of their lives?
From the times you mentioned, there was 3 more moves after that. 2 back to Texas, and which became our final destination. So there was 3 more after that came, and really, what you come to as a parent, as a father of myself as a father, what I believe you learn is how do I now teach my kids and how do I guide them with different areas of our great nation. We know how we live here, we know how we do things here in this city, but now we're going to go to another place, and you got to teach them culturally stuff, socially stuff, economic stuff, that people live a different way. Not bad or good. It's just different. The different kind of foods, the different kind of interactions and things you're going to see. It's exciting, but I think talking to them, it was also, being that we were in the military, it was also, I was very rigid and say, okay, look, I actually gave my kids a checklist and said, okay, hey, we're moving. I need you to pack up your room and this is what you need to have in it. I don't care how you put what bag. Here's a bag. I don't care how you pack it, but this is what you need to put in there. Because the rest of our stuff's going in a crate and we're not going to see it for a little bit. So as we take this drive, what do you want? Your favorite book, your favorite stuffed animal? So I think not intentionally, but I think later on, my kids told me, I put a lot of pressure on them to say, God, Dad, I didn't know what to take. You're telling us to take this and we're not going to see our stuff. And in their little mind, they're like, what? It's a 3-day drive. And to them, I think it's like a lifetime. It could be, before they see their favorite puzzle again. So it was a whole new level of instruction. I feel like I had to give them.
Wow. When you think back over the last 30 years, what would you say was maybe your toughest time or the toughest season as a father?
The toughest season over this time, I believe, for fathers, for myself, is when your kids change seasons. Because just when you think you have it figured out, or when you think, hey, I'm doing good, I like my job, things are going okay, I have good friends, I go to church, whatever you do. But the toughest seasons come when your kids change roles. middle school to high school, you know, elementary to high school, any of those kind of things. And the moves that we mentioned earlier, you know, came with a new group of friends. How are they going to be accepted? And those tough roles and conversations you have with them about maybe you shouldn't be hanging around this person because this is what they do, or whatever the case may be, or this person does this, and then you got to kind of learn and reteach them of why this person does this, you know. Um, so I think those became like the biggest challenges. And of course, supporting my wife through all this, because at this time I had been on a lot of field exercises and a lot of different kind of things. So, you know, it was a father, but, you know, it was how do I also support their mother as a husband? So they needed to see me as both, I believe.
Yeah. I was very fortunate during my time of military service. So I didn't have to move. I only moved once
Okay.
during the time
Hmm.
when when I was in the military and my kids were alive. So I didn't have to form certain skills, but I would assume as a military man who's moving around, uh, you're taking your kids with you to different places. And like you said, they're forming friendships and relationships with people. You have to learn how to discern very quickly what their friends are like,
Yes.
so
Yes.
that you can maybe give them that advice and like, hey, that maybe that kid is not the right person for you to be hanging out with or stuff like that. That I'm assuming that's a skill set you had to really hone in on pretty quickly.
DJ, there's no book that gives you that skill set. I'm telling you, it is just a straight jab and a straight, hey, you better be ready for it. We used to, in the military, it was referred to a lot of hip pocket training. You just had to be ready to give a class, to give something to somebody. So when, especially my boys, when they came home and they started playing sports and they started um, doing different things and interacting with other males, you know, and stuff, or in the sports realm, you know, is it's like, oh, the boys can do this, the guy can lift more, the guy can run faster, you know. So those kind of challenges just came to say, yeah, that, you know, we're built differently. So you're not going to do everything the way that same kid did. And that's okay. You know, is it tough? Yes, it is. You know, it's not meant to be super easy um, in life. None of us have that easy path. And if you do, please look me up because I'd love to know about it. But it is not an easy path in life, and being a father, being a parent is not an easy path. Um, but it's an exciting path, I'd have to say.
When we think about that time that we talked about earlier with Gabriel, he would be in the window looking at you when you were coming up the sidewalk,
Yes.
and you knew that excitement was building. You were going to open the door, and he was going to rush to you, and Daddy's home, and give you a big hug. And um, later, as you have 4 kids, were there moments like that when you knew there was going to be anticipation? And what was that like for you to come home and now you've got 4 kids that are kind of bum rushing you, Daddy's home, and now you get 4 hugs instead of 1, and you really have to show up different because that's a different level of energy. What was that time like?
No, you hit it on the nose. You do have to show up differently because of the things, because it may not be a hug. It may be a slap. I mean, to be honest, I mean, it may be like, where you been? I needed this, or I'm late. So you hope for a hug, but you do have to take it differently and say, okay, hey, what is this hug going to entail? Is it a quick hug? Is it I need to talk hug? You know, and those are as I mentioned, on the spot things you have to recognize right away. You know, do they need a long hug because they had a bad day? You know, and you almost have to forget yourself for just a second and relish in that fact. But also learn to say, hey, you know what? We're going to handle this, but we're going to handle a little bit later because we got to take care of this right now.
During that time, how did you manage being a husband, a provider, a dad, and where do you think maybe you went right or wrong during the early part of your kid's life?
I don't know that there, you know, how did it, trying to be a husband and a father at that time, and then also a service member. I mean, um, Tanya would always tell me, and the service member came first. No, sweetheart, no, you. But um, for all the listeners, if you've ever been in the military, you know the military comes first. I can admit it now. And then it came from now I have to be a father. And don't like to admit it, but the reality was the husband part came last, if we were putting them in that order. Um, so let's take care of work, let's take care of the kids, and then let's take care of each other. So, but you gradually see that transformation as the kids get older, and you don't even notice it really, where you say, you know what, work is work, kids are doing their thing, we're there to support them, we're there to take care of them. They got water, they got a house, and they got some bread, so hey, let's go. And now you take that time to say, okay, honey, it's me and you now.
So just from knowing you for a couple years and hearing some stories, I know that Tanya's dad was a big influence in your life. How was he an influence on you as a father?
He was my father without having to be a father, DJ. He was a big influence, to say, and he did it, excuse me, in a real subtle way. He didn't come out. He wasn't very direct, but he would get to his point, and show you, not just tell you. He showed you in the way he mannered his own kids. He had a boy and a girl. My brother-in-law Dustin, and who's now married, and then Tanya. And those were his only two kids, but he didn't come at you with stories about what they did and did wrong, or did right or did wrong. He came with just more of insight and direction that I felt was for the moment. Nothing pressing. It just made it easier to talk to him about things and share with them. And sometimes they were just one-sided conversations, to be honest. He just listened and he said, okay. And he said, you have the answer. Go do it.
Wow. That sounds like a special relationship in its own right.
Yes, it was. One I miss, but yes, very much so.
At what age did you notice that maybe the hugs started to change to like maybe a side pat or knuckles or something like that on the way out the door, and it wasn't like there wasn't as much excitement when daddy's home as much as, like you said earlier, it might be a slap, or it might be like, where you been? I've got to go to practice and I need a ride.
Right.
Like, when did those things start to change, and how do you think that affected you as a dad when like I'm going to show up, but what's that dynamic going to be like as they're in their teen years, and maybe hugging dad is not as cool as it used to be.
Right. No, and you hit on the nose there. It's the teen years, it's those early teen years, especially when they're around their friends. Oh my goodness. They take it to like, we don't know each other kind of thing. We do know each other, but we don't. So I really think for the boys, when they started in those 11, 12, like you said, 13, 14-year age, when it's just kind of say, yeah, let me give you a high five, let me do something, because that's what their friends did. That's what they did. But so that's what they did with you. But I trust in any good father, in any time, you just need to say, no, come here, give me a hug. I need a hug. I need this as much as you need it, to say, and have them understand and believe that. And when it's genuine and you're also putting your into it, I do feel like it's reciprocated back to you in the same manner, to say, okay, you need this as well, as much as I do right now.
If you could look back, or you can look back, but as you look back on your role as a father for 30 years, what's something that you think maybe you could have done a little bit differently?
I like to say I did everything right, honestly, but I know the things I could have done differently as I look back in this time is really just listen more, really listen and understand more what they were saying. Many times and we've talked about it in lengths about me being in the military. It was go, go, go. You know, it was like, okay, we're planning for the next thing, or and what's the next move? Not even the next move, but the next time dad's going to be gone, you know, kind of thing. So, and they had those things to share with you when you were gone. So now they've built them up, and they need you to listen to them now, not just welcome home, but it's like, welcome home. Hey, this is what I missed, or this is what you missed when you were gone. And I need to share this with you. And it's more that beyond that, I got an A on a test. It is what led to that A. Or, hey, I made the team, but how did I make the team? How did I feel when I made the team? You know, if I had to go back and I could listen to them more about how they felt besides just the accomplishment, but also the downside. I didn't make the team. I got an F. You know, I missed the bus. I all those little things that they may have put away for the moment and let pass because I wasn't there to share it with them. Now listen to them now that I am in their face, um, or now that I'm home and we're face to face to share it with each other.
So, what was it like? I asked this first because I was at her wedding, but
Yeah.
what was it like when Ashley comes to you and she says, "Dad, I'm getting married"?
I was freaked out, DJ. I was freaked out because you come to a point where my first, you know, we hear the stories, you see the movies, and you hear of other people, and you're excited for them. Um, but you're at that moment, and you're like, "What? What are you doing? Who has taken your heart? Who has given you more than I've given you in these last 20 plus years of your life?" You know, because that's what it comes down to. Somebody, a man, has now shown her a little bit more in a different way than obviously than what I've shown her. So I was scared, but I was also concerned. Naturally, to think, okay, and I had probably 1,001 questions in my head, and I wanted to know what is he doing, and not just the standard ones of what is he doing, how much money does he make, blah blah blah. Where does he go to church? Does he have friends? It was just more of honestly the top question was, how's he going to treat you, and how are you going to treat him? Um, because without that, if they're not treating each other right and not happy together, then how much money each of them makes or where they work or what they do, in my opinion, is not going to play a role.
Do you think over those years, as Ashley was growing up, that was it ever a conscious thought for you that the way your relationship was with Tanya might be setting the tone for how she would seek out relationships later in life?
Yes, I think the way I was treating Tanya and kids catch those things, DJ. You know, and I believe Ashley caught it more with those moments in the kitchen, those moments in the living room, those moments when you're out, you know, that she would see. And I know that for a fact because we shared it later on in life when she was growing up, and then even now, to say, well, I see the way you did this with mom. I see the way you did this. And we would talk about those things and expand on them to say, okay, look, you see the way I do it, or you see the way your mom treats me, you know, so you need to have a little bit of an expectation that you're going to be treated in the same manner, you know. Is it going to be exactly the same? Of course not. But it's going to be something that you know and experience. And I believe I did my best to show her that, to say, hey, look, I am your father, but also I am a man, and this is how men should treat women, you know? And when you find that person, then you should also have that thought, hey, I'm going to be treated in the same way.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe one of your boys is married.
Yes, Noah's married.
Noah.
Noah's married, and he got married right out of high school. Him and Emily, they got married right out of high school, both of them, and she graduated. Well, no, they graduated in the same year, but she was living in Houston, or Katie, at the time, and Noah was here. So that's what made it seem so different. But yes, yeah.
So do you think the same applied with him? Maybe he got to see how you treated Tanya, and then maybe he knew how to treat Emily, who was going to be his wife. And so he had those expectations of how to treat a woman based on how you treated Tanya.
I believe so, but I also think in a very different way. I can say that now just from talking with him and about it and what I know. But I can, he had it in a different way. He saw it in a protector of more of the one being protected, you know? He's like, I need to be a protector. Whereas Ashley, I believe, saw it more as I need to be the one that's getting protected. You know, I'm still strong and I can do this, but yes, there has to be a different role. I know my role versus the wife versus a husband type of thing.
What do you think as a father you did really well?
I think one thing as a father that I did really well is show my kids, and still to this day, that it's okay to be wrong. You know, it's okay to say, hey, you know what, I don't have it right. You know, you don't want to, you know, because we're men. We want to be that one that says, no, this is the right tool. This is the thing, you know, but it's okay to, when you're sitting in the garage changing a tire, doing stuff with them, to say, man, I don't have this figured out. You know, you don't say it directly, obviously, but you say in a way to say, hey, let's try something new now. And you, you build that trust to say, okay, hey, look, um, if this is not the right tool, then I know you're going to find the right tool. It's easy to just gloss over things and say, no, it's because I said so. And I probably said that, you know, but it's because I said so. But it's also to say, well, it's not this way, so let's find a different way of doing it. You know, because my way may not be the right way, and I think it's something I can pride myself on and done good. And so, yeah, I mean, you have to know your limits.
That's good. So after all these years, what mattered most in raising your kids?
What mattered most in raising our kids to this day is that we can still laugh together. You know, we can still laugh, show love to each other, even when we don't agree, and even when it is tough. You know, and you're having those moments when you're struggling and things just aren't going right, but you can look back and or you can take that moment and say, you know what? Let's laugh about it. We're loved, we're safe, we're protected, we're together with each other. And if you can take that moment and say, you know what? I'm glad you're here with me and I don't want to be anywhere else. I think you've done a lot for yourself. And if your kids can also share that same, you know, excitement that, you know, in you, and have that confidence in you and Tanya, then I think it's a testimony to what you've done. If the first thing, I'll say it like this, if the first action when your kid sees a dog running at them is to run the other direction and not come right to you, then that says a lot, you know? Um, because either my father's going to fight with me, or my father's not going to protect me, and I got to go find something else. You know, I got to look in another way. So, yeah, I mean, you want to be able to have that overshadow of them, but not to where you're overshadowing them, to not let them grow. You want them to be, you know, what do they say? Valuable members of society. You know, we want those things. We want those in our kids. So we got to let them grow in their own right. But it's still scary. Even Gabriel, you know, 30 years old, is still like, what is he going to do next? What is going to come and it's exciting, but also just scary, to think, um, what is he going to face?
Yeah. I know from experience from being at your house for a couple game nights and stuff that you guys definitely have a lot of fun, and Tanya's laugh is pretty infectious.
Yes, yes.
And is that something when as your kids were growing up, were family game nights really important with you guys? Did you do stuff like that?
Yes, we did. We had a gaming system, like I think a lot of Americans did, and our to this day we still talk about the times of playing Guitar Hero on the Wii, and who was the drummer, who was going to be the singer, who was going to be the keyboard player, and none of us are musicians, DJ. I'll tell you in our family, but for that moment, man, we were rock stars. We were having a good time, and even when the kids, it was great having that moment, but you also knew to say, okay, hey, the kids are now, they're going to play their own games and they're going to do their things and they don't need us. So yeah, we taught them how to play cards. We taught them how to play dominoes. We did more, with them at that time with the hopes that they would do the same thing with each other as they grew up and the same thing with their families. So and I believe we did that. The kids will now talk about the different times of games. We don't have the Wii anymore, but we still have those thoughts and memories from it.
That's great. One thing that I've noticed with some military guys is once they've spent some time in the military, they've deployed a time or two,
Hmm.
three, and they come home, they've had to be a tough guy. They've had to be in charge of stuff. They've had to do things that they don't want to talk about. And they have a really hard time removing that veil and letting their guard down. How do you think you managed just being able to have those times with your kids where you could let your guard down and just have fun and be the guitarist or the keyboardist or whatever in those Wii sessions where you're just having a really good time, but you're able to let your guard down and laugh and play with the kids?
How did I handle that? How did I,
How did you make that happen? How did you make that transition from being soldier to dad and letting your guard down and your defenses down and being vulnerable with your kids and laughing and playing?
prayer,
Mm.
prayer, taking the moment to know, I would take different routes home sometimes. And taking that time to say, okay, look, I need to take maybe an extra turn around the block before I go home to say, because of a situation or something may happen at work, um, or the deployment time when you're coming home and you're at the field waiting and you're doing all this stuff. But taking that moment to pray to say, look, okay, I have to mentally now check out of what I was doing, where I was, who I talked to, or whatever the case may be, and just say, okay, now I'm stepping back into my role as a father, a parent, a husband, all these kind of things. Um, and prayer became just the key to it, Um, and just taking this simple moment to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go sit here for a minute. I'm going to get away from the excitement and the hustle and bustle. Lots of times on deployments or even um, coming back from the field, I'd always made, and I don't know where I learned this. I couldn't tell you, but I always made a moment to go sit by myself for a second and kind of just put it all away, and just say, okay, hey, I need to now move forward to something else, and as I advanced in the military in my career, and then also with the advancement in my family as it was going, um, you kind of learn how to more do that, more frequently and how to really make that part of your plan, you know, um, as you're going to that reunion, you know what I mean, with your family. That's what it came to say, because you wanted it to be not just, hey, I haven't seen you for a long time. Let's go get pizza. No, it was more like, I haven't seen you for a long time. And going back to what I mentioned earlier, I wanted to be a better listener. Because yeah, I probably didn't listen right at the beginning for that excitement or anything. But you really have to put yourself in that thing to say, hey, you know what? Let's take this quiet moment. Just pray to God and be like, hey, all right, let me go forward now with it.
So now that your kids are in their 20s, Gabriel's 30, they're not running to the door anymore saying daddy's home.
No, they're not.
They're not staring out the window in anticipation of you being there. And you're still a dad.
Yes.
Where do the hugs come from now?
You have to go seek those hugs and get them. They come to the house and visit. They come to eat and everything, and you get that little side hug, side thing. Hey, I haven't seen you. Maybe I saw you earlier. I don't know what the case may be, but those are the times when now you have to go seek it out and say, hey, look, I need this. Back to what I said earlier, I need this more than you need it right now. And you have to make yourself, I feel like you have to make yourself more available to them. They're busy lives. They're working. They got, Ashley now being married, Noah he has a little boy. So that's not the first thing on their mind. There's a thing where they know when you hold them a little bit longer or pull them in and say, no, I need a little bit more right now. So I think it's an intentional thing that you have to go and do and find. Because they will definitely come to you still when they're hurting, when they're excited, when they have a dilemma going on, and you can tell they need a hug as well. And that may be the perfect opportunity for you to say, yeah, let me hug you back. I'm not just releasing, or you play that game of, I'm going to release first. Who's going to release first? Me or you, kind of thing. Because it may not come for another couple of weeks. I don't know. Noah doesn't live with us here in Temple, so it's going to be far and few between. That we see him to get those hugs from him. But make him, when you do seek it out, try to make it count for that moment, because yeah, it's a good feeling.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So as we get ready to wrap up here, if your kids were listening now, what would you want them to hear from you?
Go ask your mom. No, no, I don't know. I mean, one thing I want to hear, I would want my kids to hear from me at this time is that I was not meant to be a perfect father. I was not meant to be the perfect thing, but I was meant to be in your life. God put me in your life for a reason, and he put you in my life for a reason. So I want you to know that without a doubt, we were meant to meet. And I hope you like me the way I love you.
Wow. Well, man, I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast and telling your story. I really do appreciate it, because these stories really do matter. So I want to thank you first and foremost. I think going forward, lots of guys are going to be able to hear these stories, and our hope is that those young guys that hear the stories, they feel that anticipation of a little Gabriel watching out the window for them to get home.
Yes, I hope so.
Actually show up a little bit different, because we talk about the things that matter here. So I really do want to say thank you. And to my audience, I want to say, look, if this conversation hit something in you and it brought back a memory or maybe even a little ache, that's the whole point of the show.
Very much.
Daddy needs a hug. If you're getting something out of these conversations, subscribe to the channel. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And if it meant something to you, hit like. We're going to keep having these conversations because these stories matter. And maybe, just maybe, they help us open that part of ourselves again. Ephatha, be opened. Last thing I like to ask every guest, man, is one, are you a good father?
Yes, I like to think I am a good father. I believe I am a good father. Yes.
And two, would your kids say you're a good father?
Yes, I would go on a limb and say, yes, I believe my kids will say I'm a good father. Um, yes.
I love it. Well, hey, man, one final thing. I like to do this with every guest.
Okay.
Think about your 4 kids:
Mm-hmm.
Gabriel, Noah, Ashley, and forgive me, Ryan.
Ryan. Yes.
Of those 4,
We forgot him sometimes too, so it's okay.
of those 4, who do you need a hug from the most right now?
I need a hug the most right now from Ryan. Yes.
So if you would allow me to just be Ryan for a minute, man, can we end the show with a hug?
Most definitely, DJ.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you.